Tag TV, and Tag Radio. Technology now has a voice of innovation and information. Get it on www.tagtvonline.com. Ladies and gentlemen, mark your calendars. It's the one event of the year every technology industry insider, VIP, CIO, CEO, entrepreneur, successful professional, or aspiring young career networker simply cannot afford to miss. The date, March 3rd, 15 days and counting, to the opening ceremonies of the industry and the state of Georgia's premier technology community event, the 2009 Georgia Technology Summit. It all begins at 8 a.m. sharp in the grand exhibit area of the Cobb Galleria with none other than best-selling author and top editorial columnist Thomas Friedman. That's right, your chance in a lifetime to see and hear and propose questions to the author of the global bestseller, The World is Flat. Friedman makes a rare live presentation exclusively to this year's summit attendees. There's more. Showcase exhibits by the top 40 most innovative companies in our state, and exclusive insider presentations from the top executives of companies voted top 10 in innovation statewide. Potentially, you'll be the first to see the next big thing in our industry's future. Attendees will be the first to hear the State of the Technology Industry Report, a special executive briefing presentation from Technology Association President Tino that will inform as well as amaze top exec and working professional alike. Next up, in a fast-paced and exciting flow of thought leaders and innovators, he has been called America's Educator and recently named American Teacher of the Year, Ron Clark. So much more than you can even imagine. Ron's best-selling books and unique charisma has been heralded and honored at the White House and recently named by Oprah Winfrey as her first phenomenal man. Wait, there's more. In this packed spectrum of unbelievable talents and innovators, the technology community next honors its 2008 inductee to the Technology Hall of Fame, the past president of Georgia Tech and state of Georgia's most respected economic and academic leader, Wayne Clout, recently appointed as Secretary of the Smithsonian, returning to his home city especially to accept this most prestigious award. Then, the big close, the $10 billion man, who runs one of the globe's biggest and most innovative technology and services divisions of one of the biggest companies in the world, President of GE Energy Services, Daniel Heinzelman, closes the summit with a global perspective on innovation rarely heard by anyone other than the most selective insiders. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, February 17, 2009, 15 days before the event of the year, the 2009 Georgia Technology Summit, and this is our annual GTS Tech Talk preview presentation with Technology Association of Georgia, Tino Mantella. Well, Tino, I can only imagine the excitement's got to be building. Registration filling fast. Tell us a little bit about what's going on. Give us a current update, and maybe tell our TAG members and those who are interested in attending just how they can still register, or if they can still register.
They absolutely can still register, Frank. It's an interesting time. It's where all the behind-the-scenes work is going on right now, getting ready for our mega event of the year. This is our 10-year anniversary, so we wanted to do something big, and certainly bringing in Friedman and the supporting cast, if you will, is really exciting.
Well, you know what's amazing is that I think the lineup this year, it's hard to say supporting cast. Any one of the people that are speaking could have been a featured speaker. Of course, in the face of Thomas Friedman, what an incredible coup that is to be able to get him. I'm sure that with his recent bestseller, Hot, Flat, and Crowded, that he's got to be hugely in demand, but what a timely opportunity for everybody.
We talked to his handlers last week, and we know that we're catching him in between trips. I believe it is to Korea and India. He's really all over the globe, so we're happy to have him here. And I'm in the middle of his new book, and for those that haven't picked it up, we're going to have books on sale both at the VIP reception and also at the summit. So it's really interesting, and he hits on a lot of key issues that are facing us today, and he has some solutions and some major suggestions for how we can move forward tomorrow with more technology and thinking about how to address some of the energy challenges.
Now, it's we're airing this on the 17th of February. The event's going to be March 3rd. We've got about 15 days, as I mentioned earlier. Is there still opportunities for like a larger group, maybe table sales of some kind, if I wanted to come as a company and make a little bit more of a presence?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we are anticipating closing in on 1,000 people, which would be our largest summit certainly in recent history. But there's room in the Cobb Galleria. That's the nice thing about it. We can still accommodate another 30 tables. So, yes, and there have been universities and other groups that have been buying tables in bulk, if you will, and we'd love to have groups attend, whether it's an individual or table, and there's absolutely room for sponsorship as well.
Well, it always makes it is the premier networking event, and so many high visibility people. I mean, the kind of players that you just never see at a traditional or an average event. And so, obviously, if you are a supplier or a vendor, or you are involved in any of the companies or presenters that are going to be at the summit, as well as the attendees, it's a great opportunity, especially in today's economy, to really reach out for what I think to be a pretty efficient and low-cost way to be able to network and be right up close and personal with a lot of opportunity and prospects. Let's talk a little bit about the top 40 most innovative companies and that whole process and how it narrows down to the top 40 that showcase and the top 10 that actually present.
Well, Dennis Zakis, who's been on our board for quite some time and really headed up the top 40 since its origin a few years back, is leading it again. And he has a great task force, and they work very hard, starting about 4 or 5 months ago with a call for applications in respect to companies in Georgia that see themselves as innovative technology companies. And as you know, Frank, we have a lot of them in Georgia, and the competition is fierce, and each year it gets more difficult to make that selection. So they start by reviewing applications, and they narrow it down to a number that they can manage, and ultimately they select the top 40, and then they start moving towards selection of the top 10. And I know in the next over the next course of this week, they will have interviewed and selected the top 10. I think they have about 20 companies that they're actually bringing in to make presentations, and they want to hear more about these companies so that they can make the best selection possible.
You know, one of the things that it really is a highlight of the summit every year, because over the years, these top 10 companies, more times than not, have gone on to be some of the top and more successful businesses of the future as far as the technology community is concerned. And one of the things I've heard often is that the keen insight and the opportunity to see these people while they're still in their early stages, or to hear about new technologies that are on the cutting edge that you really haven't heard about before, that you end up hearing because of the opportunity that's given by TAG to get these companies their exposure and get in front of a pretty important audience for them. And as far as I think the audience is concerned, a great opportunity to see a cluster of a lot of innovation all at one place, all at one time. Speaking of innovation and looking at the state's economy overall, I know one thing that you put a lot of heart and soul in that ends up being pretty much a leadership document for all of us from one year to the next, and that's the State of the Technology Industry Report. You're going to be making an executive briefing on that at the summit as well.
Yeah, I always look forward to that. We started this about 3 years ago, and each year, I believe, this year we're working with Lasser and Associates, who are helping us with data gathering. I believe it's one of the strongest reports that our community has, and our goal is to be an information repository where businesses are here and businesses thinking of moving here, corporate leaders can make decisions better because of the information we provide. I think it's a couple hundred pages of data that we have, Frank, so it's almost like we're putting a book together each year, and it covers a broad range of topics. And what I'll do at the summit is identify what I call top 10 findings for this year's report. We're not going to spend the whole time talking about the economy at this particular point in time, because as you and I know, this too shall pass, and we need to look more broadly in respect to what Georgia does well and what we have to work on. So that's going to be the focus of my report, and there's some extremely interesting information, whether it be about education, R&D, IPOs. Interesting thing about IPOs as an example is in the years 2000 and 2001, there were quite a few IPOs here in Georgia. 2008 didn't have any IPOs, and that's, of course, not just symptomatic of Georgia because it's a national issue given the economy, but yet it does cause our venture community and those companies that are building, that are looking for a way to exit, to look beyond the IPO. So there's lots of interesting data that I'll present there, and then also our listeners and our members are going to be able to download that report on our site as well.
Now, for our listeners, again, we're talking about March 3rd, starts at 8 p.m., Cobb Galleria. There's still an opportunity to register, even an opportunity to get tables and even sponsorship opportunities. It's the 2009 Georgia Technology Summit. State of the Technology Industry Report, is there a way, once we've kind of heard it at the event, will we be able to get follow-up to be able to get more access to the information?
Well, there's two things. First of all, at the event, everyone that attends will receive a CD, which will have all the information on it.
Everyone that attends gets a complimentary CD copy of the State of the Technology Industry Report. That's pretty valuable. Go ahead.
That's great stuff, and we've got calls from all over the world now from past reports of people wanting this data. They want to understand more what's happening in Georgia so they can make decisions based on that information in terms of things like, do they want to establish their company here, or do they want to grow their company here? So, yeah, the CDs will be available for everybody that attends, and then also, as I said, they can download the report. And just to go back to a point in terms of when people can arrive, the networking at these events always starts early, so our doors will be open about 6:30 a.m., and the people will can be there the whole day. We expect to end about 2 o'clock, but oftentimes our leaders like to stay around and
well, it's a good point. I mean, one of the things also, the atmosphere is one of doing business as well as just seeing old friends and making new contacts, and that is that the networking, as you point out, starts early, 6 a.m. is when it opens, and the showcase will be, the exhibits will be out front. Again, many companies will have exhibits, but the top 40 companies, I believe, will have a presentation. And then, as you mentioned, the day goes by, so much information packed into what is really a well-managed and fast-paced event, because I know in a lot of cases time is valuable. We all debate, whether or not we can make an event or not. This is a case where you start off with Friedman, get the day rolling, but it steamrolls so fast and one thing after another, and then it's over by around 1:30 or 2. And really, as you point out, I know in the last few years, it hadn't been that the event held anybody up. It was a great fellowship and networking that continued to happen after the event was, the formal event was over.
Right, and we've packed the agenda this time, as you pointed out. And so we don't think many people are going to want to leave after Friedman because they're going to want to hear the top 40. They're definitely going to want to hear Ron Clark. I have not had the privilege to hear him before, but those who have shared with me that he is very impressive. And speaking of energy, he's got loads of energy, and he evidently just puts on a great performance, if you will, in addition to being one of our top educators in the nation. Well,
the interlacing of we all know how important academia is, this whole STEM and science, technology, engineering, and math initiative. The foundation and TAG is so aggressively lobbying now, literally, figuratively, as far as the legislature is concerned. So I think Clark is a natural, although I think he brings as much innovation and entertainment to the presentation as it is knowledge and information. So I am looking forward to him. I've heard a lot about him, and I actually think he may be the kind of the secret of the event. He may turn out to be one of the more entertaining and more informative speakers out of any of them. Let's talk a little bit as we kind of quickly go for a close here. We've got a couple of more things to talk about. we're only up to about 11 o'clock in the day, and I think we need to take a breath, have a little bit of lunch. I know we have a great meal, and that's always the Cobb Galleria does a spectacular job, and the food's always great. Kind of not a major important thing, but I'm being an old Italian, I kind of like a good dinner. But that said, what a neat time now, because during the actual lunch, we're going to have a very formal and very important event, and that is we're going to be inducting the 2008 Technology Hall of Fame Award. And, of course, I'll let you tell us all who it is, although I kind of mentioned it already, but I think I'm really excited for him. Go ahead.
Well, Wayne Clough, 14 years at Georgia Tech, and people that have followed Georgia Tech for that period of time, always a great institution, but they've certainly risen in prominence during his tenure there. Well respected, and beyond Georgia Tech, a national and global leader. He's referenced in Thomas Friedman's book. He's on committees and panels for the president, and he's just a really extremely impressive person. And so the Hall of Fame committee, the way people make the selection are the past Hall of Fame winners actually make the initial nomination and break it down into 3 finalists, and then we send that out to about 1,500 people who vote. And we had 3 great finalists, but Wayne Clough, just for his accomplishments here, it warrants a reception like this with 1,000 people to
absolutely,
to
and it's just you almost kind of don't know which one complements the other, because I think it's a natural environment and the right place for this to occur. Yet the other side of it is what a special opportunity for it to get the kind of exposure and awareness that it really should have. Okay, big wrap up now. An interesting opportunity. I was fascinated when I first heard about Daniel Heinzelman, I believe his pronunciation, I'm getting it correctly. But, when you hear that he is a division president, you think, well, gosh, what's so important about that? Until you start realizing we're talking about a global division of the largest company in the world, and probably a division that's something like $10 billion a year in business. President of GE Energy Services. Tell us a little bit about Daniel.
Well, he's running you and I recognize he's running a $10 billion operation, so he's running one of the largest companies, if it was a standalone company
sure.
in the U.S. And the GE, when you think about GE and its history, you think about lots of innovation. So here we're going to have a person that's going to talk about how they do it at GE, and then also how they're looking at innovation in the future and how others should be looking at innovation. So we wanted to wrap it up with a corporate leader, with a business type that could pull this all together in respect to the day's activities. And we think we have a great one in Dan Heinzelman. So everyone will want to stay around for that. And our corporate leaders need to be here to hear his message as well. So as you say, it's a power-packed day, and from the beginning with Thomas Friedman to the end with Dan Heinzelman, we have a great lineup. Any of those could be the keynote.
Each year, each year you think that, boy, this is the one, and yet it gets better every year. And I think as far as this group and this organizing committee and the work that you've done, Tino, this one promises to be the biggest and the best one we've ever seen. And with the 10th anniversary, what a great name, the energy of innovation, because the subject matter is discussed both in terms of technology, green tech a little bit, I think, but also just the overall energy of innovation. But it's more of a metaphor for the whole day. I mean, it's a lot of energy packed across really just a few hours of time, but a great, great opportunity to network, great opportunity to hear some phenomenal speakers that you just really wouldn't get a chance to see, certainly not see live. Close it with some details. How do we register? Obviously, tagonline.org, and still an opportunity to, as I mentioned, for sponsorships and tables. Go ahead and kind of close up our Tech Talk for today.
Yeah, tagonline.org, or call Barbara Martin or myself here at the office at 404-817-3333, and we'll be happy to sign you up as an individual or for a table or as a sponsor. And I did want to give kudos to you, Frank, for your work on this. You do a lot of behind the scenes, and the videos are going to be great again this year. And Todd Bell and the whole task force that has spent months getting this program.
Todd Bell from Verizon, they've been great, and so many other people, a lot of, like you say, so many people work behind the scenes, and it goes on for months on end. But again, your leadership is what brings it all together. We're talking about the 2009 Georgia Technology Summit. It's March the 3rd. The networking starts at 6 a.m., but the event opens at 8 p.m. at the Cobb Galleria. Tino,
we said 8 p.m.
Did I say p.m.? 8 a.m. I'm sorry, 8 a.m. By p.m. I think it'll be a little too late, but 8 a.m. And it's always fun to have an opportunity to speak with you. Usually we're the host and interviewer, so I guess I get a chance to say thank you for joining us on Tech Talk today.
Well, thanks, Frank. I've always enjoyed the conversation with you, and look forward to a big event on March 3rd.
Look forward to seeing everybody March the 3rd. Thanks, Tino.